The most important thing is to cultivate that internal and inner confidence. You may be uncertain, but you have to believe in yourself first. If you don't believe in yourself, if you don't believe that you'll figure things out, it can't even start. It's like the foundation isn't very strong. It's like crumbling before you even start building on it. Looking back, I'm like, that's really insane because, first of all, you're 24, 23, 24. Second of all, no one knows what they're doing in this specific space. And you just put all this pressure on yourself. And I think that had I had someone to speak to who was like a couple years older or someone that I trusted, they would have been like, I don't know how to do this. Nobody knows how to do this. Your way is as good of a way as any way.
Hi, I'm Hannah Bloking.
Hi, I'm Allison Macklick, and this is another episode of Imposter Talks from 4 Under 3. We are so excited to be here today. Hannah, last week I talked to Sam the Magic Man, and that was that was a new and different kind of conversation, just really on the vein of everyone experiencing imposter syndrome. And he also did magic tricks. That was really fun. We missed you. How's your week been? How are you? How are you doing? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good this week, honestly. I'm really excited to be here. I'm so excited about our guest that's coming up because I'm just so fascinated about what she does. Yeah, looking forward to this one.
I know, me too. Before we jump in, have you felt any feelings of imposter this week? And if so, how did you deal with them?
Oh, yeah. Actually, this was the first time I think in my professional career that I was invited to be at like an executive only happy hour with some people at my company. And I remember getting added to the invite list through one of our executives' EAs and looking at it. And I was like, I think it's an accident. Like, why am I included on this thing? But I ended up, of course, I ended up going. And I was really nervous. I was like, what am I going to have to offer when I sit in this circle with all these people? But it was really cool because they all were like talking to me. They were talking to me about things they knew that I had done. And it was like I totally set myself up in my mind that this was going to be something that I like didn't belong. So it's just like another proof point. Yeah, but it was really cool. How about you?
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. I'm so proud of you.
I know. I was like literally, and you know what? Like you always want a seat at the table. I was like literally given like the opportunity to take a seat at the table, and I almost didn't go because I was too nervous. But it was really fun. Yeah. So
I love this so
yeah.
much. Mine is on an opposite realm, not really in professional, but we'll have updates there soon. But I started the speaker course this past week on Wednesday, and it's been something I really wanted to do. And 2,000 women applied and 30 got accepted. But these women are already speaking. They're keynotes, they're doctors, they're all of it. And so I went in thinking, oh my gosh, why am I even here? And we did breakouts, and literally all 3 of them were doctors and then me. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I was sweating. I went last because I was like, I don't even have anything. What? But then I remembered, okay, what is the purpose? Like, kind of the things we've learned through imposter syndrome. Like, I want to do this. Like, I have something to say and I'm going to say it with my own way, my own authentic voice. And they loved it. They were like, that was amazing. And I was like, oh, thank God. Okay, good. So I just was reminded that even though you feel like you don't have a seat at the table, you don't belong, like you have something to say and you have something to bring.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's awesome. I'm so proud of both of us. That's
Oh,
actually like a perfect
what a week.
segue
Yeah.
into what a week into our guest today. This is very fun. So we have Alice Yu with us, and Alice, I'm gonna let you introduce yourself in just a second, but just a fun personal story. Miriam Shahab, shout out. She's been on our podcast before. She posted about Alice over a year ago, and I really respect Miriam, and I just think she's amazing. And I was like, oh my gosh, if she's doing this, I want to do it. So I'll let you talk about all the things you do, Alice. But fast forward, we've now worked together twice. She's an incredible coach, and I am so excited about this conversation today. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Alice Yu, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to Imposter Talks.
Thank you so much for having me. Hi, everyone. My name is Alice Hu, and I am a career astrologer. So I like to use astrology as a tool to better understand yourself so you can make better decisions in career and in business.
Amazing. So tell everyone how you got to be this esteemed, very well known career astrologist. Even for Hannah, please share.
Yeah, I really want to know. Like, so I've never heard of this, but I'm so fascinated. I feel like I need to talk to you after this.
Oh, thank you so much. So, we all go through a huge transformation in our late 20s, early 30s, known as a Saturn return. It comes back around in our mid to late 50s and again mid to late 80s. It's a time of great transformation related to career specifically. It's a time when you are figuring out like next steps. It's very much so about maturity, about what you want to be known for. And that first Saturn return is a huge like maturation process, like true adulthood of like, how do I want to spend my time? Am I living according to my values? And there's no way to avoid this big milestone. The only way is through. But you can't like skip through these lessons. And before I started this business, before my Saturn return, I had worked in corporate for a while, for all my 20s, working in like consumer marketing abroad in Asia for companies like Marriott and P&G and Hilton. And so on paper, my life and my job was like at a very young age, I was working with people like 10, 20 years older as my peer and a really great client roster. But I just felt empty inside. And I realized that I had to take a moment to understand my own values and what is really important to me. And for me, I was searching for something that was much more purpose driven and something that could really help people. Cause I just didn't really feel like sometimes I'd send in like a pitch or a strategy document. I'm like, I'm not really sure where it's going. And so through my Saturn return, I realized that freedom was very important to me. So to be an entrepreneur. And then throughout my Saturn return, I was just figuring out like what's going to be that business. And I went through an e-commerce business and then I landed on my current one that was very much so wellness events, spiritual events focused when I started it in Washington, DC in 2019. And over the last few years, I have focused more on astrology and specifically how astrology can help you get an edge in career and business. And so here we are today.
Amazing. So you've had some huge career changes based on where you were and where you are now. The topic that we're here to talk about today specifically is imposter syndrome. Typically, when we talk to people who've had career changes, it's a journey that's ripe for imposter syndrome. So, can you talk to us a little bit about what does imposter syndrome even mean to you?
It just means you don't feel like you're good enough. You feel like you need to prove yourself, and there is like a hesitation, whether it's sharing what you think, what you believe, as well as an inaction of sorts as well at times. For me specifically, I feel like when I started my business, especially in Washington, D.C., I was at the very start of my spiritual journey, and I didn't know as much as other people who were like attending my events sometimes too. But I just felt really called to start gathering community, creating these types of events. And I always felt really insecure. Like, what are people going to say? Because I'm from the DC area. And I'm like, starting a spiritual business. I had this like marketing, digital marketing role before, and it was a hard 90-degree turn, like a big pivot. And yeah, it's taken me many years to get over imposter syndrome in terms of do I know enough? Am I good enough? And obviously I still feel that as I like work with different types of clients, get different type of opportunities. But for many years, it was purely just the fact of having this specific business.
Hey, it's Allison. And it's Hannah. We wanted to take a moment to talk about something that affects teens everywhere, imposter syndrome. You know that voice inside your head that says you're not enough? Even when you are, it's time to silence that voice.
In our Fight Your Imposter workshop, we'll guide your team through a 60 to 90-minute interactive session where we'll share strategies to overcome self-doubt and embrace confidence. It's fun, engaging, and packed with actionable takeaways that your team can apply immediately.
So if you want to help your team show up stronger and more confident at work, email us at info@4under3.io.
Again, it's info@4under3.io. All right, back to the video.
Okay, I really resonate with that of the hard pivot because I've been in corporate America now for a very long time. And even we shared the 31st episode, I shared it to Facebook yesterday for the first time. And I realized I hadn't shared how excited and amazing this project that we've done for 2 years. No one in my Facebook or my Instagram even knows it existed. They were like, what? Like I was getting calls and texts from yesterday from people. And I had to sit there with my imposter syndrome almost of, are they going to think I'm silly? Are they like, what are they even going to think? And I had to remember, okay, I know what I'm talking about, and this is what I'm passionate about, and who cares? But it takes time to get there. So I was wondering if you learned some tips and tricks along the way of I am this corporate career person in DC. This makes sense. Hard right. Like, and now I live in LA and now I am on a spiritual journey. What did you do to tell yourself or actions you took or things that really worked and resonated with you? You'd love to learn.
I mean, the most important thing is to cultivate that internal and inner confidence. You may be uncertain, but you have to believe in yourself first. If you don't believe in yourself, if you don't believe that you'll figure things out, it can't even start. It's like the foundation isn't very strong. It's like crumbling before you even start building on it. And really, up until a couple years ago, I just realized I'm like, I need more practice. Like, I think that when I had switched over to focus purely on astrology and using it in a very different and specific way, I was just like, are people going to understand this? Do I have enough experience? Do I have enough knowledge and expertise to be able to help people? And something we always talk about in the holistic wellness and spiritual space is enough to help somebody. And it's really special when you are in the novice seat, when you are new to something, because there is such a closeness that you can have with clients, to customers, to listeners, like whomever your audience is. And as you like learn more, there's so many shifts and changes, and it's not like better or worse, but in those beginning stages, there's so much more vulnerability. There's a lot more like you want to make a really good impression. So there's a lot more one-on-one connection versus as your business progresses. Lisa, like for mine, I know that I'm not going to be able to do a personalized email for every person who orders an expanded career astrology report. I'm not going to be able to tailor like after like a reading always, hey, these are some specific resources just for you. Like in the future, it might just be like, hey, this is a resource for like mental health, or this is for like if you need some business help, like it's just going to be much more of a list. So that's something that I've recognized and realized, and just becoming more confident is so important. So it's interesting because a couple years ago, I had the idea to launch my website, yoursaturn.com, which generates free career astrology reports. I have always worked in some sort of technological like capacity, but never creating a technology quote unquote product. And although it's just a website, it's a lot of custom builds in the back. Like that I had to dream up and then talk to the engineers, be like, can you do this? Can you connect that? And so resource intensive, like really not like my wheelhouse. And my intuition kept on saying, this is what's going to make a big difference in your business. This is what's going to get people to understand your unique perspective that you bring to astrology to help people in their career. And through this website, I've been able to generate today, like I just checked the dashboard, like over 14,000 free reports, not just, and then there's hundreds and hundreds, probably 1,000 like paid expanded reports. And as I got more people messaging me, or I'd look at their free report and be like, oh, it means that you should look at this and this, I became more confident because I had those reps. I put in the practice rounds. And so practicing is very important, as well as trusting your intuition.
That is awesome. And I really resonate a lot with that too, because like I'm a people manager. And so I've onboarded people that were really experienced or really tenured in the organization, but also brand new. But one thing I notice over and over again is that everybody wants to shortcut the new part. And I feel like I always try to tell them, "No, you only get to be new one time."
Once.
It's like when you're talking to kids and you're like, "Enjoy being young because 'cause you're only young once." And so no, it's like that resonates a lot with me. So, a lot of our audience are, like, younger viewers, like, and younger meaning, like, newer in their careers, and they're, like, figuring out their path still. So if you could say something to them right now, like one thing they could take away and they could apply today if they're feeling like an imposter, making a decision about their career or something they're doing inside of their current one, like, what would that be?
I think talking to someone, finding someone that you trust who's a couple steps in front of you. So if you're just starting off in your career, it could be like your direct supervisor. It could be someone not even on your team, but you just feel that connection to it. I think the connection component is really important. And when we're younger, and especially let's say you're a woman or a woman of color, like you feel like you should do things on your own. You're afraid to ask questions. It's like, it's funny because like at 24, I like expected myself to know everything.
Mhm.
I remember my first job was like, I started the digital marketing department at the property level of a hotel, which means like for one specific hotel. And I was doing all this research and I was just like, oh, like they hired me to figure things out, like things that people had never done before. Nobody in the organization, even at the regional level. And I was like, I gotta get this right. And I'm like, looking back, I'm like, that's really insane because first of all, you're 24, 23, 24. Second of all, no one knows what they're doing in this specific space. And you just put all this pressure on yourself. And I think that had I had someone to speak to who was like a couple years older or someone that I trusted, they would have been like, I don't know how to do this. Nobody knows how to do this. Your way is as good of a way as any way. And ask people to weigh in. Find someone you trust, be like, hey, what do you think about this thing that I drafted up or this presentation? Like the coachability component is really important, asking for help and then receiving that feedback, whether it's good, bad, or neutral.
I 100% agree. And I would also add that everyone listening should at least start with your free career astrology report. Because I remember reading it. We were in Montenegro this summer, and I was like, why do you know me at my core level? And this is saying things that I've literally never said out loud. So anyone in their career, I think, needs to understand that on a soul level, because work is something that fills up 8 hours of our day, at least every day. And let's at least be in the right place in the right time and having some direction. So I'm going to definitely share the link because that has been a game changer for me. Bare minimum. Thank you. But everything else you said, it's, yep, we hear it all the time when we do our workshops, when we talk to all different levels of people on the podcast. So have accountability, get a mentor, get used to hard feedback, like different things. And if that feels uncomfy, lean harder into it. But that's okay. You can't run away from it. So I think that 24 story, I was like, Hannah and I probably had the exact same experience at 24. Like, why
Yeah.
do we think we have to do it all? I don't know.
And I think that's why you see a lot of teams filled with women, like a lot of teams that have to do the hard stuff, operational, executional work. And something that I realized recently is it's really, I always thought I had experience in a lot of different like sectors, like B2B, B2C, international, like US based. Like I've had a lot of experience, but it's not just about the industries you have experience in, but the working styles. So like some people, when they come to me and they're younger, they're like, I don't know, should I just start my own business or should I just do a corporate job? And actually my advice is do as many things as possible. Be like someone who needs to be part of a team, be an individual contributor, work for a huge organization, work for a small organization, like work in ways where you have to manage people, work in ways where you're a consultant and you don't have to. And those are such important things to do early on in your career, like within the first, let's say 10 to 20 years. And sometimes we don't think about it in that way because we're like, oh, we're really good at this. We're just going to move up like just one ladder, one ladder, one ladder. But it's so important to have those other areas of experience because that's like where you're lacking, but we're all going to need to work in a different capacity at any given moment, just because the way that we're working is changing drastically over the next 20 years.
Yeah, that's incredible. It resonates with me also because a lot of people think that career growth is linear. And I think as you mature in your career, you realize that there is no real linear growth. Like you have to take side steps to take like big leaps forward. And I don't know, that resonates so much. I know it would resonate with my team also.
Yeah, this has been incredible. Alice, anything else you want to leave our listeners on? You like where to go to find more about you, how to work with you? I know we've talked about yoursetter.com and the free career
Mhm.
astrology report. Anything else that you think, hey, know this about me before we wrap today?
I share astrology in a very practical way. I know that Allison knows this already, but I always share like very like tangible next steps forward. That's just like my vibe. And specifically again, like focusing on helping you achieve more career success, like understanding like the season that you're in and what are the opportunities available for you just because of the astrology forecast and what's happening. And yeah, people should really get their free report. There's an expanded version that's 15 plus pages, which I also think, yeah, you also have as well. And then, yeah, I do one-on-one readings. You can find me on Instagram. I post often when there's something important to share. And I'm at WO Company. So WO.
Awesome.
Amazing. I have talked about you to literally everyone in my life. So this is going to be a real full circle moment when we push this on LinkedIn next week. Thank you so much. Hannah, anything else before we wrap us out today?
I'm literally just pulling up your website, so I'm good. Yeah,
Get ready for your soul to be read in a really vulnerable, amazing way.
I'm ready. But yeah.
Yes.
Good. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Alice. Thank you,
Thank you,
Hannah. It was
Alice.
so great to talk to everybody. We will be putting this on LinkedIn and then sharing on Apple and Spotify and all the things. And we'll see you next week.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Imposter Talks. Subscribe, like, and review our podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And please follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube at 4under3. And we want to hear your imposter story. If you're interested in being a guest, please email us at info@4under3.io. Thanks so much.